Hi everyone, I'd like to apologize. It has been 8 months since I've posted a video in the Little Mermaid Retrospective series. If there was anybody out there actively waiting for the next one, well, nobody told me, but I apologize. This retrospective is a supplement of the TAPAS and Stuff Productions podcast, in which I consume vast amounts of Disney media in order to get ideas for a Disney-inspired role-playing game and universe called Keys and Kingdoms. Disney inspired. It's like Disney. It feels like Disney. I'm not using any actual Disney characters or properties. Stop asking how I'm going to pull that off. Be sure to check out the podcast itself for my thoughts on Disney's various feature films. I started at the company's beginnings, and I'm currently looking at films released in 1994. This playlist is about Disney TV series I think would be worth looking into for the universe, starting with the Little Mermaid TV series. I suppose I should express some gratitude. In those 8 months, the 3 Little Mermaid retrospectives are now officially the top 3 most popular videos on the channel. The first one recently passed 600 views, and the other 2 are steadily approaching 200. And these 3 videos with hundreds of views have 2 comments between them. Typical, really. Sadie, my good buddy, thank you for the 2 comments. Everybody else, come on, I know those numbers just represent hits, not views, and people decide within the first 10 seconds whether they're going to finish the videos, but if you're finishing these videos, comment, bro. Okay, let's do this. The other day, I listened to the first 3 retrospectives I did to catch myself up, get back in the mood, and now it's time to watch the last 2 episodes of The Little Mermaid Season 1. And, oh my, I'm glad I randomly decided to look into this before I started recording. When Hamilton was first released on Disney Plus, I saw a lot of people lamenting that you can't take screenshots of Disney Plus. As these retrospectives have been relying on Disney Plus screenshots, that made me nervous, so I tried it out and I found that I totally could take screenshots on Disney Plus, but that was a few months ago. It's not the case anymore. When I took a screenshot of these episodes, Disney Plus was just a black screen, like when I tried to have a Zoom watch party. So, not sure why this rule took so long to apply to me, but let's find solutions. Not about to snap a photo of my computer screen. Okay, suggested solutions. Windows snipping tool, never heard of it. Let's try it. Nope, doesn't work. Still black screen. Screenshot while clicked onto another app. No. Go to your phone, visit the Disney Plus website via browser. Make sure your phone is in desktop website mode, then take a screenshot. Okay, that worked. Ugh, that's going to be a pain. Maybe not so much now, but when I start on Gargoyles, I really hope to start displaying more than one visual aid per episode. Just a couple of extra little steps, not a big deal, except where the heck on my phone are these screenshots saved? Yeah, here they are, found them. Okay, now to send them from my phone to my computer, and here they are. You see, screenshots. Had to take a lot more steps to get these, had to crop them a little because they were taken on my phone, but the point is their quality. Quality control has been maintained from one retrospective to the next. This will work until Disney figures out how to block this particular method of taking screenshots too. We start with episode 13, Trident True, or episode 12 if you're watching on Disney Plus, because lest we forget, the first episode of the series was never released to Disney Plus for some reason. I imagine that's why the first retrospective has so many hits, people trying to find the episode. Trident True. That's a good pun title, it's not a bad pun title. It's good. So we open with the evil manta. Ooh, didn't expect that. Always a treat to have him around. An eel is trying to sell him some stuff, so the manta sicks his never-before-seen pet Fangface upon him. Not the last time the manta would unveil a never-before-seen pet, if I'm not very much mistaken. Fangface chases the eel away, and we cut back to Atlantica, where Triton is hanging around with Urchin. Urchin throws discuses, and Triton shoots them down. But the king has paperwork, and he's eager to get it out of the way so he can relax tomorrow, as it's Father's Day. Urchin passes the time by replacing all the stuff in the princess's vanity room with mischievous little creatures. 4 of Ariel's sisters enter, and if my ears don't deceive me, more than one of them are voiced by Kath Soucie for this scene, whereas they get actual individual actresses in episodes where they each actually become important. At least I think that's going to happen. Thus far, only Mary Kay Bergman's Arista has gotten any face time in the show. Urchin's prank is a smashing success, and Arista, Atina, and Adela are enraged. I think Arista is still Bergman in this scene, while Susie is Atina and Adela. Atina is the eldest. She's the one who wears a spiky coral crown, and according to sources, she actually is voiced by Cat Susie, while Adela, the brunette with the ponytail, who was retconned here in the series to being chubby, her normal actress here in the show is Sherry Lynn, but yeah, she sounds like Kath here. The end credits may prove me wrong. And who was the fourth sister here in this scene? Rewind, it was Andrina, the short-haired blonde with a seashell hair ornament, voiced apparently by Kathy Cappadini, though she's silent in this scene. Meanwhile, Ariel and Flounder are in the market doing some Father's Day shopping. The day before, well, we all know how irresponsible Ariel can be. One salesman claims to have the perfect gift for bearded fathers. He's hawking a sharp-toothed fish as a beard trimmer. When he demonstrates, the thing gets a bit overzealous. That's what you get for trying to pass off an animal as an appliance. This is the Little Mermaid, not the Flintstones. Urchin is, a little bitter. He's expressing some bitterness about Father's Day as he has no parents of his own, but Ariel suggests that Urchin get a gift for Triton, as Triton is rather fond of Urchin after all. The sales eel from the prologue starts sucking up to them. He only sells decorative shells, and upon being told Ariel's dad is the king and therefore has plenty in the way of decorative things, he suggests that Triton might deserve one of the magical glowing shells of Shark Canyon. He doesn't have one, but he can sell a map to Shark Canyon. Ariel's all for it, to Flounder's horror, but the eel assures him there are no sharks in Shark Canyon. Where's that going? I want to guess. Yeah, well, the punchline I'd come up with in a similar situation would be to have someone assure a tourist that there are no crocodiles in Crocodile Lake, with the fine print being that there are no crocodiles because the sharks got them. I'm guessing something similar happened here, but what could have gotten the sharks? Is that where the evil manta lives, Shark Canyon? Surely he wasn't just in the opening scene. Okay, it's called Shark Canyon because it's an ocean trench shaped like a shark. Okay, that's cool looking, but yeah, disappointing twist. And they find the cave system, each cave glowing with a differently colored light. Our trio picks the green one, and they're attacked by a giant octopus. I hate this octopus so much. It has a big, angry, toothy mouth for starters. Octopuses have beaks in the center of their tentacles, not mouths on the front of their heads. And the way it swims is just so wrong. Why is it so hard to make cartoon animals that just look real? Real animals are charming, man. Ariel and Flounder are cornered by the monstrous octopus, and Urchin goes to fetch the king. Triton has finished his paperwork, so he goes off for a spa day, some massage, some hot springs. Hot springs, how does that work? They're in the ocean. Okay, you know Goo Lagoon from SpongeBob? There's kind of some reality there. There's like a water of certain consistency. Maybe it's like a ton of salt or something. I forget the details, but underwater bodies of water are very much a thing, but I don't know about this hot spring deal. Just looks like some of that more inexplicable underwater water that SpongeBob usually has. You know what else the Little Mermaid TV series is really starting to remind me of? Freddy Fish. You remember Freddy Fish? Those point-and-click adventure games about those two little kid fish who solve mysteries? Very similar aesthetic. Urchin finds Triton is not in the throne room, but as it happens, he's left his trident behind, so Urchin takes up the trident himself. See, ever since Ariel pointed out that Triton is like a father figure to Urchin, Urchin's been remarking that the king appreciates his bravery, so he's trying to do brave stuff. That shit could have been written in better. Big surprise, this show's writing could be better. As Ariel and Flounder try to fend off the octopus by throwing rocks, Urchin runs into the sales eel again. The eel takes note of the trident and pretends he has a plan for saving Urchin's friends. With a few quick moves, he traps Urchin in a net and takes the trident for himself. Urchin uses a sharp shell to cut himself out of the net and returns to Shark Canyon unarmed, defeating the octopus by dropping a huge rock on it. Ariel is sure to retrieve a glowing shell from the cave before they leave the canyon. As Urchin discusses how he lost the trident, we finally get a name for the sales eel, Maury. Well, that's a terribly lazy name for an eel. And Urchin just says it over halfway through the episode, even though he never introduced himself. Does that mean they're previously acquainted? Now that I have a name to look up on the Disney Wiki, I see that, it's not a very well done article. It's one paragraph and some pictures. So I can't be sure if this is Maury's only episode or not. I didn't recognize him when he first appeared. And he's voiced by Dave Coulier from Full House. Nice. I only know Coulier's voice work from his really bad impression of Lorenzo Music doing a really bad impression of Bill Murray from later seasons of the Ghostbusters cartoon. Nice to know he can turn in a good performance. I would have never recognized him. Anyway, Mori sells the trident to the evil manta, unsurprisingly. Mori tells the manta to make him an offer, and the manta equally unsurprisingly replies, "How about your life?" Ariel, Flounder, and Urchin capture Mori and have to deal with the bad news that the manta has the trident. Mori gives them a map to the manta's cave, and, well, that's the end of Mori's story in this episode. Still back to his old ways. Okay, and they're chased off by Fangface, but Urchin grabs a bouncy blowfish and uses it as a ball, throwing it to lure Fangface away. Any competent guard dog is, of course, trained to ignore that sort of thing. And once again, I'm reminded of Freddy Fish. Fangface is explicitly referred to as a dogfish. In reality, of course, dogfish are a number of small species of shark, which I've been told when I caught one while fishing when I was very young, don't taste very good. Most cartoons, like the first Freddy Fish game, treat dogfish as, fish with the head of a dog. The fifth Freddy Fish game featured a dogfish which, though it still acted like a dog, looked exactly like a shark, and I think that was a stroke of brilliance. Dogfish are, in fact, sharks, and, Keys and Kingdoms moment, I imagine undersea people would use sharks as guard dogs, not dogfish because they're very small, and sharks wouldn't be useful in the exact same way as dogs are, because sharks can't make noise to alert you of intruders, and they can't sit and stand guard. They have to stay moving at all times. But still, a shark guarding your borders, maybe doing perimeter checks, tearing intruders to shreds. It's a thought. And they would not be distracted by toys. Maybe by chum, Anyway, they get into the inner sanctum, and I really like how the animators remember the manta's scale here. He's much bigger than a merfolk, so the trident is a much smaller weapon in his hand than in Triton's. I feel like they neglected to do that in the Thingamajigger episode, like the boot turned into a giant boot when he held it. So Ariel knows they need to get the trident out of his hands and that they have no chance of doing it by force, so they need to make him put it down. Alright, let's see what Ariel's plan is here. She throws the glowing shell out into the open. Manta sees it and figures Mori must have dropped it, and exactly as predicted, the Manta sets the trident down. Why? I mean, I guess if I was examining a shell, it'd be easier without something in my other hand, but wow, that was a stupid plan that shouldn't have worked. Urchin grabs the trident, and in the resulting escape scene, the Manta grabs Flounder in his gigantic fist. Urchin retaliates by zapping the Manta with the trident, sending him fleeing. Ariel is horrified, and the blast seems to drain much of Urchin's strength, and also seems to render Flounder catatonic. Cut to back in Atlantica, where Triton is explaining that the trident has more powers than just zapping things with lightning, but only if you know how to use it. And some of the powers only work for the king. Triton uses the trident to restore Flounder's mind. Triton takes responsibility for leaving his trident unattended during his spa day and encourages everyone to be more careful. The next day, Triton gets his Father's Day gifts, some crown polish from Adela. Earlier in the episode, Adela had mentioned that she'd just be getting him what she always gets him, and sure enough, Triton puts the polish in his cabinet with all his other tubs of crown polish. Ariel gives him the glow shell. I wondered for a second how she got it back, but then I remembered that Urchin's trident blast sent the evil manta fleeing from his lair. She must have grabbed it before bringing back the catatonic Flounder. And Urchin goes with his first idea from back in the marketplace scene, a pen. Triton appreciates the gift. He quickly asks Sebastian to find him something to sign, and acknowledges Urchin as part of the family. Ariel's sisters remark that Urchin basically is their bratty little brother. End credits. Nobody unexpected in the cast list. We have Ariel, Sebastian, Triton, Flounder. Guest stars Arista, Urchin, Mori, the Manta, and it seems I was right. Katsusi must have been pulling double duty as Atina and Adela. Oh, but no Frank Welker. I felt sure I'd see him there as Fangface and the Giant Octopus. Guess not? Alright, decent episode, nothing extraordinary, and I do hope I haven't been talking about it for too long. My last couple of podcast episodes have been way longer than any I did prior to my pandemic depression hiatus. I don't know what could happen during the COVID summer to turn me into such a blowhard. This retrospective is about 2 episodes instead of 4, so I guess if it's of an equivalent length to the first 3 retrospectives, I'll know I've been talking too much. Up next is the Season 1 finale, Eel-Ectric City. That right there, that's a bad pun title, not a good pun title. It's bad. And I don't imagine it'll feel like a season finale, probably just another episode, These kids shows, you're just supposed to be able to view them in any order. We open with Ariel and Triton going for a spin in Triton's dolphin-drawn chariot, which I've just noticed is also shaped like a dolphin. Was it that way in the movie? Certainly not. It was just a big giant seashell in the movie, wasn't it? I'll have to confirm. Underwater chariot design idea, I suppose. When Ariel asks to drive for a moment, Triton micromanages her the whole time. I'm guessing that's a motif. Later that evening, we once again meet Pearl, Cree Summers' blonde-haired popular girl who briefly appeared earlier. I'm guessing this is an episode all about her. She arrives in a fucking palanquin carried by two hunky merboys. Wow. There's being the most popular bitch in school, but that's ridiculous. Okay, Flounder acknowledges that it's ridiculous, that's good, and Ariel marvels that boys will do anything for Pearl, but then Pearl clarifies that the studs are her brothers, and she pays them to carry the palanquin. Okay, lots of mixed messages in this moment. Jeez, I don't know what I'm looking at. Pearl tells Ariel that she's on her way to a wild teenage party, her exact words, and summons Alana, Ariel's black-haired sister who wears a pink crown, voiced by Kimmy Robertson, who I believed voiced some or all of Ariel's sisters in their very brief speaking appearance in the movie. I like Kimmy Robertson as a voice actress. She hasn't been in much. Her best-known role is as the Feather Duster in Beauty and the Beast, and in live action, she's only ever a bit player, but when she's just talking, she's got such an adorable, nerdy voice. I'm not entirely sure it suits the character of Alana if she's the type who hangs out with Pearl. Indeed not. Robertson's voice doesn't suit this particular sister at all. C'est la vie. Ariel asks if she can attend the party, and Pearl says why not, as long as she can guarantee the king won't get angry about it. So Alana and Ariel consult Triton, and they convince him with the probably going to turn out to be untrue statement that Pearl's parents will be in attendance. Triton mentions during this conversation, on the matter of Ariel being responsible, that Ariel once followed a whale migration all the way to Antarctica. I love those lines about bizarre antics from Ariel's past, like in the third episode when Triton mentioned that she once brought a giant squid home. Other details of the conversation, Ariel pleads a little too hard that she wants to go because there'll be boys there. That's kind of interesting. We don't think about Ariel's sexuality very much because she ends up with Prince Eric. We never see her interested in romance outside the context of him. I hope in this episode we see what she's like under normal flirting and dating circumstances. She also mentions, as she and Alana set off, how great it is that Pearl's parents let her do whatever she wants. With that, and Triton's micromanaging earlier, you're not being very subtle about the theme of your episode. I'm gonna put my phone on mute now. It's very unprofessional of me. I'm so sorry to have my phone constantly going off during these. And so, as they prepare for the party, Alana does Ariel's hair up in a high-stacked ponytail, puts some golden cone-shaped earrings on her, bit of makeup. I like Ariel done up for a party. Flounder is disappointed to find he's not invited, and as she departs, Ariel casually states, "Good night, Dad," in the most adulty voice she can muster. I say that's good. I never agreed when people say it's too modern that she calls him Daddy, but she's too old. When a teenage girl calls her dad Daddy, it gives you the vibe that they're close in entirely the wrong way, and it's a bit creepy. They haven't even left the castle when Pearl decides to hijack the king's new chariot to make a grand entrance at her party. Alana's all for it and volunteers Ariel to be the one to drive. Flounder nervously follows them, and Pearl informs the two sisters that they're on their way to Eel-Ectric City. That's the literal name of a city? I just thought it was a stupid episode title. Jesus Christ. Flounder, overhearing and not wanting to tattle, decides to consult Sebastian on what to do instead of going straight to the king. I never understood that concept. Being a tattletale is just so important, isn't it, that you don't snitch on people. Ordinarily, it's just a weird social dynamic amongst children. You know, it makes sense. Children feel betrayed when their friends get them in trouble, so they'd want to shame that friend. But in my first grade class, it was literally against the rules to tell on people, and I just don't get it. I believe it was Bob's show who expressed a similar feeling, like, yo, if rules are being broken, people are getting hurt or putting others in danger, why does the fear of being labeled a tattletale outweigh the fear of, that? Never made sense to me. Sebastian hears Flounder's story and agrees with the tattletale assessment and decides that Flounder and himself will be the ones to retrieve Ariel from Eel-Ectric City without the king's knowledge. What the hell, people? On their way there, Sebastian mentions offhandedly that when he was younger, he played in a band in Eel-Ectric City and went by the name Dizzy Crustacea. reference to the famous trumpet player Dizzy something, I assume. Eel-Ectric City turns out to pretty much look exactly like Atlantica, but with a bit more color variety and the tiniest hints of a Las Vegas aesthetic. Not exactly breaking the budget to pay the background painters, I suppose. And I die a little bit inside every time they say the words Eel-Ectric City. That's so stupid. Pearl knows the bouncer at the Rockinist Club and gets the trio in. The bouncer is a giant octopus. Why is this giant octopus employed as a bouncer, but the previous episode's giant octopus was just a monstrous predator? Won't somebody please think of the world building? Back in Atlantica, Triton hangs out with Dudley. Mentioned him before. He's an elderly sea turtle who appears often in the show, I believe. I took a look at the Disney Wiki. Apparently, he's merely a friend of Triton's. He doesn't work at the castle in any official capacity, and he's voiced by Dave Coulier. I really thought it was Jeff Bennett, and I don't remember seeing Dave Coulier in the credits of any earlier episodes. I don't think he sounds like Jeff Bennett now. Maybe they had Bennett fill in the role at first because he was already in the episode, and then cast Coulier when they decided to make him a recurring character. Just as Flounder and Sebastian make their way into the club and start looking for the girls, a powerful Arctic current blows through, which I only know because those annoying oysters on a chain from Thingamajigger are back and exposit that it's an Arctic current. And apparently this current heralds the arrival of a trio called the Orange Ruffies, whom Pearl was excited to meet. They arrive in a chariot pulled by giant barracudas and consist of two identical, silent, snarling, red-headed mermen, and an especially muscular, square-jawed, distinctly barracuda-like merfellow whom Pearl identifies as the Big Barracuda. And sounds to me like he's also voiced by Dave Coulier. Like he actually sounds like Dave Coulier, unlike Maury or Dudley. So, and there's this guy, a merfolk with not only a barracuda tail, but also a face rather like one. Back in the Charm Bracelet episode, there was a deep-sea merboy with an eel's tail. What could this mean? Who are all these merfolk who resemble different kinds of fish instead of the generic ones of most of Atlantica's populace? I already know, of course, that Ursula is a Cecilia. That's really a thing. But should merfolk really have more motifs of all sorts of fish species? I really don't like it, but I've kind of been making that a bit of a motif with all sorts of Keys and Kingdoms creatures who are part animal, even as I admit every step of the way that that motif doesn't really make any sense. I really like these designs, though. I don't know about that eel boy from earlier, but maybe the Big Barracuda is a marrow. Yeah, I didn't think that was quite an inappropriate name for the evil mantis species. This guy, yes, he's much more of a marrow. Anyway, the Big Barracuda starts flexing on Pearl and the two princesses, and Pearl challenges the Barracuda to a chariot race. Ariel drives. That chilly current is getting worse as we cut to commercial. Okay, apparently it wasn't heralding the arrival of the Orange Ruffies. They just happened to arrive at about the same time. Got it. Currents, underwater weather effects. Note that. And we come back from commercial at a simple house in Atlantica where a merman reads a newspaper and a mermaid makes a sculpture. I didn't get where we were at first, but then Triton comes to the door, and okay, I guess this must be Pearl's house and her parents. They look rather mild-mannered, and their house rather mundane to have raised a rotten egg like Pearl. You know, Triton's a lot bigger than any other merfolk, I just realized. He's not just muscular, he's quite massive overall. Like, tall, you know? Maybe that's the thing that happens when you become King of Atlantica, along with being the rightful owner of the Trident, you get buff. Anyway, Triton's here to escort his girls home so everyone can be safe at home away from the Arctic current, but he quickly realizes there's no party, just Pearl's two brothers sitting around. Pearl's mother, I don't recognize her voice. It might be Kimmy Robertson putting on a posh motherly accent. Sounds like a mid-Atlantic rich woman. I guess Atlantica could very well be in the mid-Atlantic. And she does confirm that she lets Pearl do as she pleases, no consequences, and funny, you know, I was really expecting Pearl's dad to be a posh kind of a twit Dave Coulier, but he doesn't get any lines. Shame. Anyway, back in Eel-Ectric City, the Ruffies and the three girls are starting their chariot race despite the storm. Ariel decides not to start the race, saving face with Pearl by claiming she's pranking the Ruffies, just making them race themselves. Really, she's just worried about the storm. Pearl isn't impressed and takes the reins herself, swiftly catching up to the Ruffies, to which the Big Barracuda reacts by saying a line he said 1 minute earlier in the exact same tone in which he said it the first time. Makes a lot more sense the second time. The first time he said it, I was like, why is that line there? Evidently, they put it in too early. Pearl soon loses control of the chariot, but Triton's dolphins, regardless, manage to overtake the Ruffies just as the storm really starts sweeping in along with a cyclone. The Ruffies crash their chariot and are trapped inside it somehow. The animation isn't too clear on that, and Ariel saves them just before the entire nightclub they were in tumbles off a cliff to crush them. Triton arrives just in time to put the club back on its foundations, saving it with Sebastian and Flounder inside. Ariel and Alana hug their dad, and Pearl is incredibly surprised that her parents are here as well and were worried about her, and has to admit she likes the notion that they're going to worry about her more from now on. Later, the four main characters of the series, plus Alana, gather around a campfire of some sort of superheated underwater vent of some sort. Triton delivers the episode's moral, that you shouldn't let anyone talk you into doing things you don't want to do. I guess the bit about overprotectiveness versus too much freedom was more of a side thing. I like that campfire thingy, that's cool. I wondered how underwater people would harness that kind of energy and why, what else might it be for, apart from keeping warm when an icy cold Arctic current is passing through. Something to think about. Triton assures Ariel and Alana that they're beached regardless, and the credits roll. The credits for entirely the wrong episode from the look of things, as it includes Danny Cooksey and Jim Cummings, who were definitely not in this episode, but no Cree Summer, no Kimmy Robertson, no Dave Coulier. I was afraid that would happen. I watched a bootleg of the Hercules TV series once, and most of the episodes just used the end credits of the episode with Medusa. It was very uninformative, as the Hercules show always had a ton of really great guest stars I couldn't always identify. So, this is the first episode of The Little Mermaid where I've seen that happen. Hope it doesn't happen too much more, and I hope it's not still true of the Disney Plus Prince of the Hercules show. Anyway, let's see. Pearl's mother has a page on the Disney Wiki, and according to that, she's voiced by Russi Taylor. Cool. Anyway, that was The Little Mermaid Season 1. Overall thoughts on the series thus far? Pretty dumb. That would be my first thought. It does not stimulate the intellect. The emotional core, however, is very good. There are good lessons about relationships and parenthood, even though you can usually tell precisely what the theme is going to be from a few foreshadowy throwaway lines in the episode's first moments. World building is terrible. There's no consistency with what's sapient and what's not. Place names are dreadful puns, and far too many objects and events get unnecessarily prefixed with the word sea. It's not telling me as much about merfolk culture and everyday life as I would have liked it to for the sake of this mission, because most of the world elements are pretty stupid. Not as many musical numbers as I expected. I really thought every episode would have one, but there are quite a few that don't, which is okay because the songwriting is very mediocre. The score is way better. It's not all bad. There are a few rich things here and there, and most of the stories take us to plenty of really weird and inventive places and introduce us to weird and inventive creatures. What the show definitely isn't most of the time is boring. A very common complaint about video games and RPGs is that the underwater worlds are always boring. But by drawing inspiration from the wacky creatures and places seen in this TV series, I imagine that the oceans of the Keys and Kingdoms world will be places that couldn't possibly bore anybody. How long is this recording? 28 minutes? I guess that's not too much longer than the previous episodes, but it's still longer. That's weird. I don't know why I talk so much more now. So thanks for listening, everybody. As always, consider donating to the Patreon. Link in description. I'm considering maybe I have to start an LLC so that instead of being my Patreon, it's the TAPAS and Stuff Productions Patreon. It feels like that would be the more honest thing to do. I'll figure it out. That was Season 1, everybody, and if my attempts at turning my whole life around and becoming a very different person pan out, we'll be back with more Little Mermaid Retrospective next week instead of 8 months from now. Later, losers.